There are people here who pay $50,000 a year for kindergarten. That is $100,000 gross annual income.
Oh my goodness.
For kindergarten.
Oh my goodness.
And my friend who I'm speaking of, her child can't read. He doesn't know his ABCs.
Welcome to the Homeschool Journal, a show that unpacks the joys and journeys of the classical homeschool family. Here's your host, Carrie McGraw.
Welcome back, friends, to the Homeschool Journal, where today we're going to talk about homeschool outsourcing. We have two lovely moms that are going to join us, and they're going to help us understand how it is that they made a decision to use some outsourcing in their homeschool, how that fits into their school day and school week, and what it is that keeps them motivated to homeschool classically. Allie Chee joins us from California. Allie spent her early career in the financial and publishing industries until she decided to homeschool full-time. She and her 10-year-old daughter have been homeschooling together from the beginning. And Barb Martin joins us from Ohio, where she and her husband Tim have 4 children, 3 of them grown and moving out of the house, but she still has a freshman at home with her. She also enjoys her 4 grandchildren. If you enjoy our episode today, we hope that you'll subscribe to our channel or like us below so that you can join us for future episodes of the Homeschool Journal. Let's get right into our conversation. Welcome today to the Homeschool Journal. Again, we're so happy to have you. And today we have 2 new friends with us. Barb, who is with us out of Ohio, and Allie, who's here with us out of California. Ladies, hello. Glad to have you. So happy you're here.
Morning.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Well, morning for one of us and afternoon for the others, right?
Yeah, I guess it is afternoon.
One of us is on our first cup of coffee. The other 2 might be on 3 or 4. So,
Yeah.
Well, so we know that we've brought you here today to talk about homeschool outsourcing and really define, what it is. What is outsourcing when we say that for homeschoolers? I mean, I've talked about this in a previous podcast of the Homeschool Journal. I think it was our first one called What is Homeschooling Anyway? And we talked about this sliding scale of delegation, which our guest had put it in that term. And I love that because I really want our homeschoolers today to hear that it is okay and it is natural over the years and the ages and the stages of our kids for that homeschool to ebb and flow. And sometimes it's all direct instruction from the parent. For me, it was that way for many years in the youngest years. And then sometimes we decide, it's time to pull somebody else in here. And that somebody else, as far as outsourcing, can be tutors, it can be a cottage school, and it can be online academy. And I know that you ladies bring some particular experience in outsourcing to our conversation today. So what I want to start with is for each of you all to tell us a little bit about your homeschools. Where did you start? And what has been that mix for your sliding scale of instruction? Barb, why don't we start with you?
We started homeschooling in 1997. We didn't know anyone that did it. We felt called of God to bring our son out of, he was in a public school at the time. And when we started, there was you couldn't jump on the internet and do a search. There were just, those kind of resources weren't available. So we feel kind of like we're pioneers. And it's amazing to me now, all the things that are available to young families and how hard it must be to pick and choose. I kind of appreciate now those early years when, you were just teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, and it wasn't so complicated.
I agree. I feel like the older kid in a toy store when like all the toys are new, and I don't get to play with those anymore. All the new homeschool tools. That's the way I feel when I see all the stuff that's out there right now. But go ahead and keep telling me about, where that transition came from in your homeschool.
So in the younger years, we would get together with different families. We eventually did find a homeschool group. Amazingly, God moved us to a church that had this huge homeschool community, and we were just kind of shocked. Oh my goodness, right here in our own county. And it was such a blessing to us to join with other families. And there was a father there that was a scientist, and he and my husband, who's a a technical whiz, they would get together and come up with these science nights for the kids. And they would do wave and motion and all kinds of just really cool hands-on things for the kids. And then we do, different co-ops. Sometimes we'd commit to a year. We'd join a group for a year at a time. And the older kids, now we always refer to that as getting in the harness, because you've got to keep up or you've got to slow down, whichever the case may be, but you're in line with somebody else, which has its ups and downs. There's a sense of accountability with that, but there's also a sense of, we're not keeping up with the crowd, or we feel like we're pulling the whole sled here. So we do that for a while. We love the people. We always kind of kept a hold of the people, but sometimes then we just go home and be at home for a while and do our own thing. Over the years, we just, there was a sense of more quiet and rest. And I think you need that as a family. You can get just overwhelmed by, and then there are, of course, different personality types. We've got an extrovert, we've got an introvert.
Right. Absolutely. Allie, what about you?
Always had a sense that I would want to homeschool. And when I was pregnant, my husband and I decided that we definitely did want to. And for the first few years, obviously it's not as demanding in those first few years, or not in the same way, but I had that time to study and research. And I actually came across a book called Climbing Parnassus.
Oh, my favorite. Tracy Lee Simmons.
Absolutely. Tracy Lee Simmons. That book, we all have a book or two that changed our lives.
And that one changed mine. I'm with you.
Absolutely. And I had I was in Catholic school for 12 years, and I studied Latin for 2 years. That was a long time ago. But with the commitment after reading Climbing Parnassus, I started teaching my daughter Latin when she was 5, and quickly realized she was going to fly and exceed my abilities in about 5 minutes.
Sure.
So I started searching for a tutor, and it took about a year, which was fine because I could get her through that first year. And I found an excellent tutor in England. A group of former Oxford scholars had formed a group, and they were Greek and Latin. And they recommended a book by a company I'd never heard of, Memoria Press.
Oh, fun.
And it was the prep guide for the National Latin exam.
Wow.
And when I received it, I thought, look at this. It's text-based, not image, fluorescent lights, crackle pop, with a few sentences tucked in here and there. It's a real textbook, and there's great information. So I thought, what else do they do? And that was the pivot point. And since that time, Barb called it a harness, and I like to call it a train. So to lay the tracks, to build the train, to be the conductor, the engineer, it's a lot for one person, and it would be more slow going. So I decided that Memoria Press, they'd done the works. The network was established, and I could keep the train on the rails flying with these tools.
Yes, and you know where the train's going. That's the amazing thing about classical education in particular, and how Memoria Press tries to direct its curricula. So we know where that train ends. It has a beautiful beginning, and it has a definitive end in the curricula, but then it never ends because you're constantly learning, and then you pick up this wonderful book or many wonderful books, and you continue to learn. So thank you for all of that and helping us understand and sharing with other families, where your homeschool started. But it's somewhere along the way, you all chose specifically to do some outsourcing, and I think specifically online academies. And that is, it's growing. We're finding more and more uses for that. And we have developed that here at Memoria Press, I think, beautifully. But what led you to find that outsource and to employ that in your homeschool? Allie, how about you?
That just came from using the materials and staying connected with Memoria Press with their emails and online. And when I discovered that they had this online academy, it seemed like a great addition to what we do. So I enrolled Celestine, my daughter, this year in 3 classes, and I was blown away, truly thrilled. And there's so many things I like about it. Obviously, the quality. I find it, well, what I'm finding is that actually in my 12 years of private school and 4 years of university, I didn't learn as much as I am learning using the Memoria Press classes, both the books and then online. It is amazing, and it's the way it is.
Same experience, Allie. Yeah.
Yes. And the teachers are wonderful, and it's a perfect blend because I'm still her primary teacher. She's only with her Memoria Press teachers per class an hour and a half a week. But those are the tracks. And then I can just keep us going station to station all week. And then she has the fun of another teacher. She has the healthy camaraderie and competition of fellow students and being graded. And I think we will not only continue with Memoria Press, we're going to be adding more classes next year.
Oh, that's good to hear, of course. A little bit of self-promotion there for Memoria Press. But let me say, from my own experience, while you just keyed in on something that I used when I outsourced, I didn't use Online Academy because I had the cottage school here right in my backyard. And so, a couple of my kids used the cottage school, but we found the same thing, that camaraderie, but also that accountability. Finally, they were accountable in maybe 1, maybe 2 subjects, that wasn't just me. So that getting to know another teacher was also important in their development as a student. I found in what were kind of grades 3, 4. I mean, that was young for us when we did that. So Barb, what about you? You've chosen to use Memoria Press Online Academy as well. So how does that outsourcing fit into your homeschool?
We have, and I must say we love it. We came to it a little bit later in life. I'm kind of jealous now of Allie getting in the game early. I guess you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. And so we just muddled on, we just did our thing. And we used Memoria Press, a lot of their resources. We kind of, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I think writing is what drew us. My one of the really important things to us as like our school is that our children learn to communicate effectively. We want them to be effective and winsome communicators of the gospel of Jesus, but we also want them to be, effective and effective people. We want them to be successful, and they need to communicate effectively much better than their mother, clearly. So writing was a big thing for us. And for our daughter, I guess we were looking at like junior year for her in high school, I think is when she started with is it progymnasmata? Is that how you pronounce that word?
Progymnasmata. That is so hard. Yes, that's it. I know. We all do that. But I will tell you the secret. We call it progym for short.
Okay. So when I read through that, I was like, oh, this is, I love the structure. I love the method. I think this would be really helpful. And we had tried various things. But for my kids, for writing, when I'd critique their writing, it was personal. Like everything else didn't matter, but writing was personal. And so I thought, we'll never get this done if I'm the teacher. So I started with my little guy, Simply Classical.
Oh, nice. Yes.
We did that at home because he had been struggling with writing. And I'm like, I just need I just need the basics. I just need to make sure all the holes are plugged in, that he understands what a noun is, what a verb is, we need to start from the very beginning with something that's like, as Allie was saying, or as Carrie was saying, that, you've got a beginning and you've got an ending, and the path you're on. So, and eventually we we came, like I said, with my daughter when she was a junior in high school, we started thinking, college. She's not going to be ready to write at a college level if we don't do something quickly here. So she was kind of on the accelerated pro gem.
Oh boy. That's hard to do accelerated, but that's amazing.
She did well with it. She did really well with it. And her senior year, she took senior thesis also with Dr. Dre, and those two classes combined, I think she had Mrs. Johnson for writing junior and senior year, and then Dr. Dre the second semester of her and she really just blossomed. Her writing went from, what appeared to me to just be a brain dump of wonderful ideas, very disorganized, to just some really, really good writing.
Right. Giving it form and function, right?
Carrie, can I jump in here?
Oh, of course, please.
I feel so strongly on this subject. I'm in a master's program at Stanford, the Master of Liberal Arts program.
Uh-huh.
And it's a group of very intelligent, wonderful people, but they are struggling with writing. And I'm on the list. And it's amazing to me that education has come to the point where students in master's programs at fine universities can't write.
Right.
And
absolutely.
the progenesmata, that blew my mind when I saw that. My daughter loves defining that for people because that's what...
Let alone pronouncing it for people, right?
It's one of she's currently in FABLE, the English Composition and Grammar Program.
Sure, right at the beginning. Uh-huh.
Yes. And so a part of it is memorizing all the terms. And of course, that's been delightful for her because they're all based in Greek. So, and she's studying Greek as well.
Oh, goodness.
So I think I have never seen a better writing program. No. And I've looked far and wide. I haven't seen everything, but I've done a lot of research in these 10 years. And I'm in school myself. I have not seen it like this anywhere.
Well, and I just want to say, I have 2 graduates out of this writing program, and one has graduated college, and I know, Barb, you've got some older ones too. And the other is in college now, and there's one thing they're not struggling with. It's writing, or didn't struggle with for my 22-year-old. It's writing, and for them to have been particularly affirmed by their professors in their ability was a great reward to me as a mom who could see why we work so hard, and and just something exactly what you want them to hear. I don't care if they're going to struggle, learning how to use a computer differently or interface with the university. That's fine. We'll get over that one. It's the writing. You don't get to go back and do that again. We need to do it right the first time. And so to hear that you all have found, that home in our online academy, at least for some courses, that's what we want to focus on is telling parents it's okay when you get to something that you want to release as a parent and let someone else take on. You can find those resources. You can do it online. You can do it at cottage school. You can find a tutor, because I think, Allie, you said you guys have used tutors.
We do.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about, just really quick, maybe what's the day look like when you're outsourcing? See, if you're directing all the instruction, you have complete control over that day. So what does it look like for you guys on a day-to-day basis as far as functioning through your school day with an outsourced class?
Well, as Allie said, the kids are in class for a very, really kind of short period of time compared to the rest of the week. So the university model that Memoria Press uses really serves us well. So you go to class, you get your marching orders, you put your boots on, and you get to work the rest of the week. So, it's kind of like, and now, we've gone from, we had, both kids were in a writing class to now I have one student at home. He's male. My baby boy. He's 15 and he's doing everything online this year. It just worked for us. And if someone would have told me years ago that that's what I'd be doing, I would have been shocked,
Sure.
So you never know, but it's been very successful for us, and it's been very helpful for us. And so those classes are scheduled, they're in our schedule like a doctor's appointment or something would be. So you schedule those classes first, and then you plan the rest of your week around them, and you've got really tremendous flexibility. You're still a homeschooler. I mean, you're tied to Memoria Press Online Academy's calendar, but it's kind of nice to have that foundational stake in the ground, and then everything else can kind of flow around it.
Well, Barb, that's exactly what I wanted. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I wanted parents to hear, that even though someone like you has chosen, all the classes are online right now for your 15-year-old, you're still a homeschooler. You are still active in that homeschool. Just because you have taken that sliding scale of delegation and said, okay, I'm going to entrust all of that to the online academy, that doesn't remove you from being a homeschooler. And I hope parents know that, because again, homeschooling is about finding that mix that works for you at different ages and stages. And Allie, right now, I think you said your 10-year-old is taking 3 classes, right? So how's that work in your day?
Yes, she takes 3 classes with Memoria Press. She has a Latin tutor, a Greek tutor, a poetry tutor, and a civilization tutor. So
wow,
that sounds like a lot of outsourcing, which in one way it is. But in total, it's about 12 hours per week with someone else. And that's broken up throughout the week.
Mm-hmm.
So like Barb said, that's exactly what we do. We have those set times. And during those times, that's the few hours that I do everything else I need to do. and then when she's not with her tutors or online with Memoria, that's when and actually, not only am I still a homeschooler, I think it challenges the homeschool mother or father to do more, because now they're able to study classes, in which we are not experts. I've had to learn how to teach her throughout the week 2 languages that I don't know, and yet it works. You have to experience it to understand it. But if you're involved with them from the beginning, you're learning it too, and you know how to learn, and then thus how to teach.
Well, thank you, because what we've been able to, I hope we've been able to do, ladies, is talk about, yes, we've kind of used Memoria Press Online Academy as the model. And that's rather selfish of me. I totally understand. But I do want, maybe a shameless plug. Sorry, folks. But I am going to plug it for just a minute. We were just named, Memoria Press Online Academy was named #1 in online academies by the Teach Them Diligently patrons and followers. So kudos to our MPOA staff and all that they do to work so hard for our homeschooling families. Big applause. But the point being, we're using that as a model, so that those who are listening, would we love for them to choose Memoria Press Online Academy? Of course, because if they're in classical education, obviously I'm going to tell you it's the best, right? But there are other outsourcing opportunities available to you. But I am going to stay on Memoria Press Online Academy, because I think, going back earlier in the conversation, I think it was Barb named a couple teachers. One of the things that I would hope parents look for, in their outsourcing, is that trustworthy source. And I do think that our teachers are exemplary, and they bring that level of excellence to an excellent classical curriculum, obviously. But there have got to be other factors that you all might want to share with families about why MPOA, I'm going to call it that for short, because that's what we do, why it was such a fit for your family. Allie, you want to share anything with us about that fit?
Well, I came to it gradually, as I'd said. It was over time researching. I researched not only in the States, I researched internationally, and that's why I found Latin and Greek tutors
in
in
England.
Yes.
You were braver than I.
And
Texas would be about as far as I could go.
well, that's where I'm from. That'd be a good place too. But,
Oh, that's fun.
but we are entirely devoted to our children's growth and education, and so there's no length I wouldn't go to find what I hope and believe is the best. And so I did spend that time researching, and I do still use other publishers' materials, but I can't speak for them as I would have MPOA.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the reasons we've talked about, and absolutely, while we're on that, the teachers, I have been so delighted. They are wonderful. And I have I have neighbors and friends who will say, oh, now we're homeschooling too, because their children are in front of Zoom all day. No, it's not the same. Not even close.
No, right.
And also I have friends, now this is Silicon Valley, and I think we're all well-meaning and doing our best for our children. And there are people here who pay $50,000 a year for kindergarten. That is $100,000 gross annual income.
Oh my goodness.
For kindergarten.
Oh my goodness.
And my friend who I'm speaking of, her child can't read. He doesn't know his ABCs.
Oh.
So that's maybe the macro picture of education and its range at large. But when I put together everything I'd seen and everything I'd studied, Memoria Press just pulled the whole story together best for us. It was superior materials, great teachers, and a program that allowed me to remain her primary teacher.
Right. Now Barb, what about you? And maybe we can speak a little bit to the parent that is out there considering homeschooling, thinking, I don't know that I can do all this. And I've seen this word outsourcing in the title of this podcast. What would you maybe tell that parent about your experience, not only with MPOA, but, why would they consider homeschooling?
Well, it would phrase the question that way, because as Allie spoke, I thought, I was thinking, I wanted to step back a little bit and talk about who's responsible for your child's education. I mean, every parent should recognize that their child is going to learn, and every parent, if I can be, I don't know if this is judgmental, should know what their children are learning.
Amen.
and should approve of it. Right.
Yes,
right.
right.
So that's the starting point. So, and maybe because the first student that I taught at home, he started in public school. I grew up in a small community. My daddy taught and coached. My mom was a librarian. I mean, education was where we lived. And to homeschool was just so foreign to everybody. My dad flipped. He's like, what? You're crazy. But he came around eventually. We included him constantly in things. But my son was in third grade and was starting to slack off. Like, he had a teacher that she didn't care how he spelled his words. Just, silly spelling.
Oh.
And just make it up when you read it. And that was it for me. I'm like, you can't start faking it in third grade, maybe second semester, senior year in high school, but this is a little early to be the C student, right?
I think they literally called that inventive spelling.
Oh,
really?
So anyway, that's what started us seeking out homeschooling. And like I said, I didn't know anyone that did it. I think I got a hold of some audio tapes. Boy, I'm really dating myself. D. James Kennedy did a series on education years and years and years ago. And a friend of a friend knew I was trying to figure out something and shared those with me. And that just kind of opened up a lot of questions, and resources were called out. Well-Trained Mind by Susan Weisbauer was my initial. I used it for everything to plan my son's every day of his life. When we started out, I think Abeka was a Christian school in Florida. It was like the only school material that was available that I could find. We were basically just doing school at home.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing that I think we did as a family was we developed a philosophy of education. What do we want? And at the time, we had just the one student. We added 2 more children after we started teaching him. But what do we want our children to know? And
what do we want our children to value? And how do we want our children to reflect our family values?
Yes. So wisdom and virtue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about things like the good, the true, the beautiful, you want your children to be trained in wisdom and virtue. Those are the kind of things we'll teach them to read. Yeah, they'll learn how to do math. Yes, those things are important. Of course, they need those things. We want them to be able to think critically. We want them to be able to communicate effectively. But the most important thing to us is that we want our children to live sacrificially. So everything starts with scripture. Everything starts with what are we to be as human beings to glorify God? And so when you start putting those ideas together and start searching for resources and materials to support those deep held beliefs, and you run across a place like Memoria Press, and you start reading the articles that they write and the editorials and whatnot and blogs, and you hear phrases like the good, the true, and the beautiful, and it just resonates with you.
It does. It does.
And so that's how we started with Memoria Press Online Academy. We started out with those little rod and staff pre-K books that just delighted my heart for my 3-year-old little girl. And so that got us started with Memoria Press.
Right. Now, this has been wonderful because, again, I want parents to hear that there are all these options out there to them. Online, cottage school, finding tutors, direct instruction. Your homeschooling can model exactly what it is your family needs at those moments. I would encourage our parents to reach out to our resources at Memoria Press. Don't hesitate to just take a look at what, the Online Academy can offer. If you are near a cottage school, we have multiple cottage schools across the nation. And ladies, I just want to say thank you, because what you were able to share today is that gift of classical education in the home, and the fact that it can be something that we choose at times to say, this one is not my turn. This course I need help with. This one is going to be better taught, by someone else, so that, like Allie said earlier, I love what you said, when you get done all the other things that we have to get done,
Yes.
in a day as homeschoolers, because homeschooling doesn't happen in a vacuum. And we've got multiple kids in our home. Some of us, for me, I always worked as well, at least part-time, and so using resources, it doesn't all have to be just mom or just dad. Use your resources. Ladies, thank you so much for your time today. What a pleasure to have you with us and to have you share.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
All right, ladies, have a great day. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you liked our episode, click the thumbs up button or leave a comment below and let us know what you thought. Click the bell icon or subscribe to stay in the loop and get notifications of when we have new episodes. You can also check out our other resources and videos on classical homeschool education. I'm Carrie McGraw. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.